Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I have another study with me video today. I'm sorry my voice is a bit croaky, it's been like this for a couple of days now, but hopefully you can still understand what I'm saying. So today I started my revision a little bit earlier than I had been previously, so I started about 10:30, and this lecture was that I was revising was all about the skull and the different structures and the sutures and things like that. You'll probably notice that I'm not actually writing a lot of things down, and I'm actually using my laptop quite a bit, and that's mainly just because I was trying to really memorize exactly which sutures were where, which bones were where, and which bits made up the different parts, as well as learning the different foramina of the skull. So here you might notice that I'm actually using an app on my iPad. I believe this app is called Complete Anatomy, but basically this is something that I use to really reinforce what I'm learning. The other thing that I also really like to do is draw out the structures or a simplified diagram of whatever it is I'm trying to learn. So here I was just drawing out the different sinuses in the brain and figuring out their locations in relation to each other and other structures. So after a while my hands actually had gotten a little bit tired of writing. I can't write for very long, it's not very useful. So I actually decided to finish the lecture by typing up notes as to a revision page. Here I'm just writing about CSF or cerebrospinal fluid, how it's formed in terms of the ventricles of the brain and things like that. So after lunch I then moved on to a different lecture. This was actually all about cranial nerves, where they exit the skull and also the brainstem. So it was quite an interesting lecture, but quite content heavy, and it took a little while to get my head around, but luckily I had quite a bit of time on it when I was revising for my formatives, so I actually understood most of it. It was just a case of refreshing my memory and focusing on the key points really. I'm really sorry, by the way, about this rather unorthodox view. Actually, I just want to talk about that. As you can see, I'm labelling the arteries, or some arteries in the brain, and for me I find that labelling things and drawing them out really helps my understanding and memorising. So when learning anatomy I really do recommend drawing things out so that you can learn them. So here I'm doing a lecture all about the different types of stroke, how they're diagnosed, and how they affect different areas of the brain. So then I actually moved on to another lecture. This was very related to the first lecture I did on cranial nerves. This was more about their functions as opposed to their anatomy, and that includes things like cranial nerve testing and things like that. It actually didn't take me that long to do this lecture. I thought it would take me a lot longer, but I actually remembered more than I thought I did, so that was actually really useful. But once I'd finished this I wanted to sort of practice and do some questions, and so our lecturer recommended this eye simulator, which I used, and also I just found some anatomy questions on the internet which seemed mostly relevant to the course, and I just used that to make sure I understood everything and looked things up on the internet at the same time. I then had some dinner and a bit of a rest from studying, and then I decided that I wanted to take a break from anatomy, and so here I'm actually doing a lecture on consciousness, head trauma, the Glasgow Coma Scale, intracranial pressure, things like that. I was actually using Anki cards that someone else had actually written, just to make sure I was focusing on the right things, and also I was messaging people at the same time, which I try not to do, but I was quite tired and it was sort of a chilled lecture, so I thought I'd give myself a bit of a treat, really. So unfortunately my camera died after this. I did another lecture after this, and then I went to bed. So I got quite a bit done. It was a productive day, but it wasn't too intense. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I shall see you next time. Bye!